Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Yuzul, the game is Star Trek Online. It is the 24th of September 2014, and welcome once again to the Tribble Timewarp for Delta Rising. Captain Specialisations are in. This is effectively a talent tree, for want of a better term, for captains in Star Trek Online, and it allows us to advance our characters beyond level 60 in a way that isn't dependent on reputation. How does it work? Well, once you hit level 51, you'll get your first specialisation point. You'll then get a point each time you go up a level until you hit level 60, and after that, every so often as you acquire further experience, you will acquire another point, until you have, well, there is no until really, you can acquire an infinite number of points. This is kind of handy because there is no reset option on these skills at the moment, and there is unlikely to be one. After all, if you can unlock everything, even if you can't deploy it all simultaneously, any initial bad decisions you make are, well, temporary. Very temporary, in fact. So, I've got 9 points to play with. Let's have a look at some of these abilities and see where we might put them. There's only one primary tree at the moment, intelligence, to line up with the new bridge officers, and it's fairly standard talent stuff, to be honest. Tier 1 is utility, and things gradually get shinier and shinier as you work up the tiers and you plough your extra points in. So let's have a look. Basic Tier 1. Level 1 we have flank protection, which reduces incoming flanking damage by 10%. And we also have hide weakness 1. So this is in space, of course. When a shield facing is depleted, gain damage resistance along that arc facing, which is interesting because normally I've always thought of the game as treating shields as having arcs, but the hull is just being a blob, for want of a better term. That implies that the game will now be calculating arc facings for the hull as well as shields, which is interesting. It's worth noting, however, that it's only for 5 seconds along the exposed arc, and it has an internal cooldown of every 30 seconds, so it's not a we don't need to worry that the shields have gone down, it's a we have 5 seconds to do something about it deal. Once you've unlocked those, you then have access to the rank 2 versions, which basically double up their bonuses, and there are also a side spec. So in this case, flank refraction. Anyone that flanks you has a chance to be placated for a short duration, again 5 seconds, maximum once every 30, and as you improve the rank, you gain an extra 5% chance. Bear in mind that this is kind of inherent to Cryptic's placate design, so that it has an internal cooldown, so it's not a permanent problem, but you do only have a few seconds to deal with whatever was flanking you before they start blowing your head off again. Likewise, we have improved versions of hide weakness, improving the shield resistance along the exposed arc. Again, still only 5 seconds, still very much a case of you had better get a shield facing online or rebalance the shields before they start doing real damage to you. And automated reinforcement, kinda handy, plus shield regeneration for 10 seconds to all facings, with the rank 2, as far as I can tell, just giving a slightly improved version of the regeneration. Bear in mind that all of these numbers are non-final, and also bear in mind that when it comes to space abilities like automated reinforcement, we are currently on a ground map, so the numbers may be a smidge out of whack. In fact, they will be very out of whack. Up on Tier 2, Adaptive Targeting. Upon missing your target in, I assume, space, plus 2.5% accuracy for 10 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. And rank 2, plus 5%, so potentially up to 20% accuracy for 10 seconds. The thought occurs that if you then have a weapon that's deliberately rigged to miss constantly, with as low an accuracy bonus as you can manage, you might be able to game that buff a little. But it would require something like a torpedo warhead to be in range, and as I say, one weapon deliberately having balked accuracy. We also have perception bending, which ties stealth and perception directly to auxiliary power, and redundant sensors, which gives you a chance to remove placate and confuse debuffs if you've been hit with them, so stuff like scramble sensors. The description, of course, does need a bit of a tweak. Likewise, redundant sensors 2 doubles up 20% chance. Again, redundant cooldown once every 60 seconds. You don't really get hit by placate and confuse all that often in space, especially not in PvE, unless you're up against something like a Borg Diamond. But some races do love their scramble sensors, so very situational. Anyhow, what else do we have? So, Tier 3, outmaneuver foe 1. So if this is when you are flanking the enemy, you gain bonus damage and 10% chance to placate. And again, outmaneuver 2 doubles up the flanking damage, doubles up the duration of the placate. Interestingly, there is no internal cooldown listed here, so you have to wonder if there is one, or if Cryptic need to add one. Blindsided can yonk their perception for 3 seconds, or 6 seconds, max once every 30 seconds, which makes me think that the loss of a internal cooldown on outmaneuver is very definitely something that's going to get fixed. Okay, and now you have a backstab. Interesting. Obliterate defences. On flanking hit, 5% chance to drop the target's damage resistance by -50 for 10 seconds, maximum once per 60 seconds. Interesting description here. Find a vulnerable point while attacking from their rear. Of course, the flanking damage bonus kicks in at about 60-70 degrees off angle, so you can be on their side and still get this. The other option is space flanking. Oh wow. When firing upon the rear arc of any enemy vessel, you benefit from a small passage damage increase plus 5%. Stacks with raider flanking, so birds of prey and bream shellgrets will have mileage from this. And then you can double up again to plus 10%. Raiders get, what is it, plus 25% and reduced to 5% in PvP. Probably a wise idea, that. Destabilize the emitters, and then you have a chance to add shield drain when your projectiles impact on an enemy's rear arc. So you can, in a sense, almost give yourself a Tetrion proc to your torpedoes there. Shoddy engineering. No, this doesn't equate to getting some packlets, and you get 15% critical severity when it's... I'm thinking beam overload on the rear arc with a scimitar there. Just me. And 5% crit chance because you can. And likewise, Tier 4. Opportunistic. Any strategic opportunities, all of your innate captain abilities cooldowns are reduced by... Well, it's a 5% speed increase, so basically that's not a big deal, but I imagine it will stack up quite rapidly. Intelligence Fleet 1, shield and armor penetration enhancement, 10%. Oh my. 10% shield penetration. Probably that's going to go up to, 15, 20, 20, 20, 20. Yeah, that's not too shabby at all. Precision offensive is the ground equivalent. And again, shield penetration and armor penetration. So, intelligence talents are okay. Some of them are likely going to get nerfed before they even get to holodeck. I'm thinking that one in particular. If people take something like a Klingon bird of prey, stack it up with a dual beam bank, the space flanking 2, the shoddy engineering, beam overload 3, and all the other fun stuff, that could get interesting. Anyhow, here's another interesting problem. If we could drop back to Tier 1. Current points spent in intelligence 10. No, I have spent nothing in intelligence, so why is it saying that? Curious. However, it does give us the numbers. 8.3% defense and 8.3% dodge as well. So if we start at 5% with 1 point in and the specialization active, then we go up at 3.3% for it. Well, it thinks I've spent 10 points, so that's 0.33%. By the time you have spent, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 30 points maximum can go into intelligence. That's basically up to 15% dodge plus or minus and 15% space plus or minus. So definitely worth looking at if you're looking at a defensive character. On the track, Tier 1 by definition, you have it, 0 points. Tier 2 gives you more abilities. At 8 points you can start using... At 8 points you can start using intelligence kit modules yourself as a captain. Tier 3 unlocks at 10 points. You get the intelligence kit modules at 13 for green and uncommon qualities. Kicking on up, predictive algorithms, space trait. Weapon enhancement ability, so basically special attacks, and that's about it. Removes 1 debuff effect and grants 2.5% accuracy, stacking up to 4 times. So that's another 10% accuracy if you load the trait. And then remember to keep hitting your attack options. Blue kit modules come in at 18 points. Intelligence Bridge Officer Training rank 3 kicks in at 22. And kit modules for very rare come in at 27 points, with the improved version of predictive algorithms at 30, going up to, well, basically doubling up the bonus, doesn't it? 20% accuracy at full stacks. For those of you who need a reminder, the intelligence kit modules themselves come out of the Delta Alliance reputation track, and depending on how rapidly we're going to gain skill points after level 60, hopefully we'll have the option to actually be able to use the kit modules by the time we can acquire them in the store. Unfortunately at present I don't believe we have got any option to buy them, which is a bit of a pain, so I can't show you how much they're going to cost or indeed what options we're going to have. Still, we shall see. I imagine it will just be variations on the ground kits, but it'll be interesting to see how those break down by primary career, if indeed they do. Certainly my science officer would like the option to have a grenade now and again. However, onto the secondary specs, you can only have one of these activated at a time. You can flick between them freely. You'll see that we're moving between commando and pilot as essentially as we want to, but much like the primaries, you can unlock all of them with the points. So let's look at commando first. This is principally a ground spec. Tier 1, resilient power cells, reduce cooldown on all secondary fires by 2 seconds. Thank you, that could come in very, very handy, ranking up to 3 and 4 seconds as you sink further points in. Likewise, quick draw, all of your kit abilities have their cooldowns reduced, either 2 seconds or 5%, whichever is greater, going up to 3 seconds or 10%, whichever is greater. Oh boy, that's going to be pretty much ubiquitous for everybody, at least on ground. Bear in mind, I say you can freely switch, so you'll load pilot while you're in space, you'll load commando while you're on the ground. Headshot. While aiming, you are more capable of striking them who will hurt them the most. While aiming, plus 2.5% critical chance, going up to 5% at rank 2, and crouching, 14 hit points every 2 seconds, 7 hit points a second. That is not going to save you particularly. Bear in mind that that would be not quite 2 minutes to completely regenerate standard health. Yes, I've got 877 health, that's because I'm running the Delta Alliance set in the background, so that's giving me a fairly nice boost to hit points. Follow through while sprinting. All melee attacks increase in effectiveness. Lingers for 3 seconds after sprinting. I have to wonder what would happen if you went into a sprint and then popped something like charge. Could that get completely out of control? And tactical roll will leave a small spatial mine behind. The mine will deal damage to nearby enemies. Whenever you roll, you will leave a spatial mine behind that will detonate to deal 40.5 kinetic damage with 50% shield penetration, or after 10 seconds. Doesn't say if there's a blast attached to it. Only one mine may be active at a time. Rumours that the improved version of this will feature a short stun effect while your enemies are dealing with some appalling music remain completely and utterly made up on the spot. In Tier 2, once you have got your first 5 points into that, you get Juggernaut System. This is a subdermal layer of nanobots and integrate armor subsystems with your natural. But the first thing that comes to mind here is very simply maximum strength. So, give all wearers the ability to easily knock by opponents simply by rushing into them. So, I wonder how far that knockback is going to be, because the idea of just cannonballing a crowd of Borg is kind of amusing. However, Juggernaut armor plating gives you 10% maximum health and 10% damage resistance, and Juggernaut plating 2 doubles up to 20 damage resistance and 20% maximum health, so woohoo, you could get fairly tough at that point. Could we actually see characters break 1,000 hit points? Depends what order these multipliers get applied in. 10% maximum shields, reducing all energy damage to shields by 5%, doubling up onto 2 points there. So basically you get a very effective ground tank. And once you've ploughed all 15 points into Commando, you have access to demolition teams. While within a short distance of your foe, you'll basically stay within 2 kilometers of your target for, what is that, 20 seconds, and you then deliver a nasty whack of kinetic damage. 86.9, bear in mind that we are on the ground, so that's what, 10%? We'll have to see what that looks like in space. I suspect it might be rather nasty. So, over on the pilot side, the space tree, we have got, first of all, manoeuvring thrusters. You still retain 15% of base speed while engines are offline, plus 5% turn rate while stopped. That is very akin to the manoeuvring thrusters ability you get on some regular impulse drives, but I don't think I've got one handy that demonstrates it at the moment. Is it on the Aegis set? No, it isn't. Pity. Certainly there is a very similar bonus on some impulse engines. I wonder if they stack. Maneuvering thrusters 2, of course, boosts you up from 15 and 5 to 30 and 10, so it doubles up. And attack pattern expertise. Okay, temporary hit point bonus will refresh the pool, not stack them. So if you can keep your attack patterns rolled, you can potentially make yourself very hard to kill unless the enemy dumps a fairly significant alpha strike onto you. And of course that doubles up when you go to the rank 2 ability. One for the tactical captains there, I think. Back her off, your damage and maximum speed are increased while moving in reverse only. Sorry, your defense and maximum speed are increased while moving in reverse, and recommended short bursts because reverse still drains your power levels fairly sharply. 10% defense and plus 1.1 flight speed. Could get kind of interesting if you stack it with something like an Aegis set. Anyhow, eat my dust. When an attacker fires upon the rear arc of your ship, you gain a stacking bonus to defense, potentially 2% defense for 20 seconds. So potentially that adds up to 10% defense, as long as you keep an enemy on your 6 and get hit every, well, 20 seconds or so. That's not too difficult, even in a cruiser. Eat My Dust 2, of course, doubles at the top, so that would be 20% defense for 20 seconds. You have to get damaged on your rear arc, so that does kind of come in as a little bit self-limiting. Of course, being damaged implies you're getting hit. Excess defense means you're not getting hit. Anyhow, Desperate Flight 2. Increase maneuverability and speed while you're taking damage, up to 10% bonus at max hull. Reckless Abandon gives you a 2-second immunity to movement impairing effects. Interesting. I wonder if that's going to clean off any lingering effects. And Desperate Flight 2, of course, doubles up the bonuses, so you get up to 20% bonus at 20% hull. Meanwhile, Tier 2, this is the fun one. Rock and roll. You get to barrel roll your starship, ladies and gentlemen. This I have got to try. I don't care if the points aren't going to line up and allow it. Plus 100% flight speed, immune to slow, turn rate set to 0, temporarily going immune for the duration of the maneuver. Follow on is All Shook Up, giving you either 10 or 20% defense. And of course, Magic Carpet Ride, giving you a large turn rate bonus. So in effect, that would allow you to, basically it's another evasive manoeuvre. So you fire out Rock and Roll, and then you can get your heavy cruiser or dreadnought turned around fairly sharply in a way that you'd normally have to abuse evasive manoeuvres to pull off. Magic Carpet Ride 2, of course, doubles up the turn rate bonus. So let's spend some points, shall we? What to go for, what to go for, what to go for. Let's go with Eat My Dust 1. We will accept that. Yes, I want to set that. Okay, that's interesting. So it does actually ask if you want to set it active. And then we'll quickly double up here. So check, accept. And it is actually asking you if you want to take a particular point. So that's worth noting. So Reckless Abandon. Actually, no, I'm going to hold off on those two. We're going to pop some points into manoeuvring thrusters instead. And then we'll go for... what to go for, what to go for? Well, let's double up on manoeuvring thrusters. And then we could go for attack pattern expertise, or we could go for back her off. And given the ship I'm back her off will make more sense. Actually, no, you know what? Let's go for AP expertise. We've now unlocked rock and roll, so we'll pop that in. And let's have us a little magic carpet ride. Okay, so that is pretty much solid. So we have our rock and roll ability, we have the magic carpet ride. Unfortunately, Steppenwolf's in copyright, so I can't sample that every time I use it. And our final point can just go into resilient power cells just for the short cooldowns. Right. Okay, just remind me to keep switching specs whenever we beam down, because we are off to tackle the new mission now, and that, ladies and gentlemen, I will leave for another episode because I've been talking for a little over 20 minutes. Until next time, farewell.